Today I am taking you on a very special adventure. We have come over from the city to Williamstown, so we've come over the Westgate Bridge and we are going to discover a real life World War II floating museum. This beautiful ship you can see behind me, friends, is a World War II Bathurst-class corvette. There were 60 that were made and there are only 2 left. This one here in the city in Williamstown and another one over in South Australia. And today we're going to go and meet Richard, who's going to take us through this floating museum and tell us the history of this beautiful boat.
When I got up there, I was fighting the French. We fought the French during the Second World War. So my background is ships and some more ships. Yes, because they'd never met him. And his son never met him either. Oh, g'day Rick, yeah, how are you?
G'day mate, how are you? Good to see you, Richard. You well? I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, well, as I said, you can edit it, but yeah, Castlemaine is one of the ships that was called a corvette minesweeper. And during the Second World War period, between 1940 and 44, Australia built 60 of them. Castlemaine and 7 others were built here in Williamstown, in the shipyard that's just down the road there. So Castlemaine is back home again. And by the way, the shipyard's finished, like lots of things like that. She operated all during the Second World War period. It was a very busy little ship. And yes, she did get herself into some very dangerous places. Fortunately, nobody got hurt, but there were certainly some times I could say it was very, very close. Yep. The crew of the ship at the end of the war, 95.
95?
It's actually, yeah, getting a bit crowded. 5 officers, 90 sailors. As the war went along, more guns on the ship, radar, other equipment, needed more people. The Navy solved the manning problem by the simple statement of, you'll learn to fit. But of those 60 little ships, Castlemaine is the sole survivor. So it really is a little piece of Australian history. As you probably know as well, we're a complete volunteer organisation. Nobody gets paid and we fund the ship ourselves. We do get various government grants and council grants and that, but by heck, they're hard work to get them. They really are, yeah. But many years ago, when people were working out the fact the little corvettes were all disappearing, but she'd been towed up there from Western Port Bay, over there in Melbourne, about 1970, looking pretty empty and forlorn on the outside. Now, the bridge where they steered and operated the ship from, nothing. Steering wheel gone, compass gone, timber gone, anything that was made out of copper and brass, chopped out of the ship. Rebuilt now, that picture there, that's the back of the ship.
That's the back of the ship, that's what it looked like.
And the whole ship looked like that. As well as Williamstown building them, 2 shipyards in Queensland were building them, 2 shipyards in Sydney were building them, and some of them were built in Whyalla and South, but they're all named after country towns. So you see the names, Ararat, Armidale, Ballarat, Bathurst, Benalla, Bendigo, Castlemaine of course, Colac, Deloraine, Horsham, Kiama, Mildura, Whyalla, Wollongong, but all country towns. That's one of the Anzac frigates that was built over in the shipyard there, and about 4,500 tonnes. The little corvettes come in at about 1,000 tonnes. The galley, the kitchen, and they fed 95 people 3 meals a day out of there. Unfortunately, so much of the original stuff ripped out of the ship. The table's original, the basin's original, but hiding around behind that curtain, no, it's not a historic Fisher and Paykel fridge. Love the picture here of the cooks in the galley. Castlemaine spent a lot of its war in the tropics. Darwin, New Guinea, Timor, the Philippines, Borneo, hot. There was no air conditioning on the ship. Imagine being out in the restaurant and you look into the kitchen, that's what you see. This particular room we're in here at the moment and that, during the war period was known as the mess deck. This room was home, 70 sailors lived in this room. When I mean lived in this room, it was your bedroom, your dining room, your lounge room, your playroom. This is it. Where you tied your hammock up at one of these hooks and that, there was always a handle and you would hang onto the handle and you'd swing yourself up into the hammocks. Yep, radio room, got a little Morse code generator in there because it makes it sound like a radio room of the period.
So all the equipment that we can see in here,
Yep.
is that all original from the...
No, look, but it is off the period. And basically these rooms were completely and utterly gutted. But all of this equipment was obtained, over the years after the war. This one here, a direction finder, and they'd use that if another ship was transmitting. You could actually pick up their transmissions. Wonderful thing about all of this stuff, the main radio and that, literally everything that went onto these ships was made in Australia.
Really?
Yeah, yes, it was. For example, the radio equipment in here, made by that famous old Australian company called AWA.
Who are they?
The Australasian Wireless amalgamation. That's an original, what they call a sound-powered telephone. And it was connected to another telephone, say up on the bridge. You'd wind the little handle, the buzzer would go on the other one, the guy would pick it up, answer it, and but it required no electrical power at all. So even if the ship lost power, you still had that level of communication.
It's all volunteer led. The volunteers restored it as well.
Yep.
So where did the money come from? Was it from donations?
Look, there were some very good patrons in the early days, but basically we pay for this. People who come on board the ship pay their money, people who buy souvenir items, and people who just donate. But we do get grants from the federal government, Department of Veterans Affairs, the council, plus other philanthropists have been around. Picture in there in the mess deck, the ship's obviously in harbour, and you can just see how crowded it really was. And very few of the officers or crew on these ships during the war were what they call permanent forces sailors. They were all in what they call the reserve, the volunteer reserve, or hostilities only. Hostilities only, the war breaks out, I'll sign up, I'll put a uniform on, I'll fight the war, when it's over, off I go.
So every one of the Bathurst corvettes were, the Bathurst fleet corvettes were volunteers?
There were some permanent forces sailors, yeah, but effectively everybody was a volunteer. That's when the ship was taken out of the water in the Williamstown shipyard over there, in the Alfred Graving Dock.
How often do you have to do that?
We'd like to do it every 10 years, but now the shipyard's closed.
Oh.
And there are no docking facilities in Melbourne, Victoria at all. Castlemaine's War, very busy all around New Guinea in particular. Did a lot of runs from Darwin to Timor, always very, very busy. Little towns like Millingimby, Wyndham, Port Nelson, Cairns was bombed, Townsville was bombed. There was a lot more of the war around than was sort of told. And he said, when I was up here, I was fighting the Germans and the Italians. When I got up there, I was fighting the French, the Vichy French. We fought the French during the Second World War. Then he said, I finally got up there, and I got to fight the Japanese. As well as the preserving the history of the ship, we preserved the history of the men. We've got an honour board there, and there's the name of every sailor who served. Of course, there's more than 95, and we've got copies of their service certificates. Over there is our historic pin-up girl. Quite a few years ago, we had the last two men alive who came and visited the ship. Families brought them down. They'd never seen the ship since the end of the war. Probably why would you want to, really? But we put a special tour on for them. Stan was coming along here, and he got up there and he said, my pin-up girl lived there, and we said, oh, geez, that's good. Who was your pin-up girl? And he mentioned a name, Merle Oberon. We found the other picture, Google. She's in an evening dress.
Oh,
yeah, she's got nice shoulders. Yeah, nice yes, yeah. That was what they called the docking board from the Williamstown shipyard. And very simple, it had the date the ship was going to be docked, when high water was, low water, name of the ship, the time the dock was going to be flood, dock the vessel and undock the vessel and that. We were the last ship docked in the Alfred Graving Dock.
So what's your history? Are we
mine, yeah, no, joined the Navy as an apprentice, 1966. I was 16 and a half years old, did my apprenticeship. I left in 1991, I completed 25 years. Then after that, I went to the ship, joined the shipyard over here, and I retired about 5 years ago. So my background is ships and some warships. Yes.
Do you have to pay for your space here?
Yeah, we pay for our space here. Our landlord is Parks Victoria, but they've been very, very good to us. You know, when the pier was rebuilt and that sort of thing, any other little extra bits we sort of needed, Parks Victoria always seemed to find the money and the time and the contractors to do it. And our berthing fee here is very, very modest, and it's what they call a community rate.
So tell me about the Japanese flag.
Yeah, look, it was picked up in Hong Kong. Okay, at the end of the war after the surrender, Castlemaine got sent up there to do minesweeping, also to look after Japanese prisoners, which because when they surrendered, there were hundreds of thousands, millions of Japanese troops all over the Pacific. One of those flags was always given to all the soldiers, airmen, sailors, and it was signed by your family, your friends, your girlfriend, things like, fight a good war, don't forget to die for the emperor if you need to, and all of that sort of thing. So by the time they got to Japan, there was not an awful lot. They were treated well, but there was not a lot of sympathy for the Japanese. And it'd be, listen, mate, I'll have that. And you're not arguing. Yes.
These beautiful bells that we've got, what are they for?
A lot of the sailors didn't have watches and that sort of thing, and a ship's bell was used at the changeover of watches and that sort of thing. So at midday it'd be. The certain number of bells meant a particular thing, but a lot of the sort of communication was done simply just with the bell. That was actually filmed on Castlemaine during the war, and it only runs for about 9 or 10 minutes. But movie footage of Australian ships of sailors making some sandals.
Wow.
The guy who filmed that was the Australian war photographer called Damien Parra. So we did put a display up there to Damien Parra and that. He was the guy who filmed a documentary in New Guinea called Kokoda Front Line. And he actually was awarded an Academy Award for his work. I know. Wow. And one of his pictures that he took, I don't know, have you ever seen that one?
No.
That's on the Kokoda track. And it's one of the iconic pictures of the war. And unfortunately, Damien, he did not survive the war. Oh. Even though the only thing he carried was a camera, he went to some very dangerous places. And he got killed filming the American Marines on an island called Palayu in 1944. We've had the Parra family visit the ship, and they're thrilled to bits that we've got that there. But some of them, they were almost a bit emotional because they'd never met him. And his son never met him either. Yeah, just one of those. And they were just, they were in a place where he once was. And you could just almost feel the emotion. Castlemaine was with her on that mission. She was actually the senior ship. That's Armidale picture, a painting of it sinking. Castlemaine's about 30 kilometres down that way. And if it wasn't for that 30 kilometres, Castlemaine no doubt would have went to the bottom as well. She was carrying troops and that up to Timor, caught by Japanese aircraft, torpedoes hit the ship, bombs went through it. She's burning on fire. He's been wounded, and the order was given to abandon ship. The Sheehan family donated us a full set of the replica medals, and of course, that's the one.
So how often is the ship open?
We're open on weekends and public holidays, but if we do group tours. Can people sort of book ahead, but it's sort of got to be a size enough to make it worthwhile for us to do. Plus, also, I've got to sort of scratch up the people to open the ship and do it and that sort of thing. This is part of timber from the original mast of the ship. The original big mast was timber. Yeah, the coin was at 1920 penny, value 1 cent. We were hoping for something a little more flash than that, like a gold sovereign would have been nice, but it wasn't the value of the coin. It was the fact the coin was actually there. So we've preserved that as part of the history of the ship.
So if the captain lost his life at sea, who took over next?
There was always another officer called the first lieutenant. He lived down the back of the ship, so there was always somebody there.
Who was the last captain?
Jeff Moss, yes, yeah. No. We've had the Moss family visit the ship as well.
The feeling you kind of get just being in here, it's like, it's quite spacious, it's nice.
It is, yes, yeah.
The bed, it looks very comfortable, and it's, yeah, considering everyone else is in hammocks.
Yeah. In here we've got the radar room, and as you can see, the ship had 2 radars. One was an air warning radar, which was a big antenna right up the top, but they had another one called a surface warning and that. The chart room, there was an echo centre in there, plus all the charts, and the navigator kept his sextant, all of that sort of stuff in there. Anyway, we'll pop up to the bridge.
There we have it. How amazing is that? A floating museum here in Melbourne, only 20 minutes out of the city. It is open for you to come and check out and explore. Come and meet Richard, come and meet some of the wonderful volunteers that make this a possibility, and it's so important that we do support things like this in this marvellous city. So, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time around Melbourne.